Snake chains. Yes, that's the topic of today's video. We're going to be dealing with repairing one of these slithering chains, and I'm going to show you how I got to a really successful result. And I'll also talk about the previous experience I've had with repairing these. So hopefully if ever one slithers into your workshop, you might find this video handy. Watch until the end and we'll show you exactly what we've done. Snake chains are very fine links that have been flattened, and they give you this shimmering sort of look that that makes it look like a snake, I guess. The trouble is when they break, which they do because they kink, it's a really tricky little repair. You can repair them by just soldering them together and it will be fixed, but if you don't do it the right way, where the solder goes into the snake chain, it forms a little solid area. And in my experience, what happens there is right at the points where the solid area ends is where your next break is going to occur. It is important to have a look on how to repair these in the most delicate possible way to make sure that the customer's got longevity out of the chain. To start off with, we're going to put the item in the ultrasonic machine. We're going to clean it as well as we possibly can, because you've got perfume or oils inside of this, which is just going to hinder the whole process when we're trying to do the soldering work. So we start off with ultrasonic, and thereafter we inspect it. Why do we inspect it? Because there might be other points that are problematic, and if we're not going to be repairing them, we could at least point it out to the customer that there might be a problem here in the future. It's 0.64 of a millimeter, so they're very, very fine snake chain. And we also take the length to make sure that we know exactly where we have done that repair. I'm using the solder station from GRS to set up the chain lying flat down on the side of a charcoal block. So the side of the charcoal block is the cleanest area I have on the charcoal block. I'm trying to avoid any previous bits of flux on the block itself, because it is a really delicate fix, so we want the cleanest, most controlled environment that we possibly can get. Typically we use two types of fluxes in my workshop. The one is a liquid flux and the other one is a easy flow flux. In this particular case I'm using liquid flux because I have a little bit more control with my liquid flux. So I'm placing the chain flat down, and I'm taking my little brush and I'm just dipping it slightly on the edge over there. I know the chain is clean, so all that's inside the links right now is a little bit of liquid flux. It's not a spontaneous flux, it's not going to grab it and run with it. It's just going to allow me to place a tiny little piece of solder, and I'm talking about tiny. Damia, these were the smallest pieces of solder, weren't they?
They were ultra tiny.
You really just want the 2 points that connect to have a little bit of solder on each side. It's delicate. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select from my nozzle collection, which I have quite a lot. I don't know why, because I've had so many of these little torches, haven't I? I'm typically using one that will control the soldering of a ring. In this case, I'm going to go right down to the smallest little nozzle I have, because I want a really fine flame. I want a little blue flame, but I want it just about 2 millimeters or so out of the reach of the end of the nozzle. Very, very delicate flame. Once I've got the tiny little bit of solder on this side and a tiny bit of solder on this side, and really this is some of the smallest solders that I've ever cut in my life, and I know it's joined to the chain, I then take the chains between my tweezer and I give it a light little file. I'm trying to achieve a flat end so that when I bring the two together that I've got a proper joint. Solder's just gotten onto it, so if you file it flat you still have a bit of residue of solder over there. Basically, minimal amount of solder, bring them together that they match. Bring a little bit more of that liquid flux on top of it, and then a really, really delicate flame just in the area. If you see what I'm doing over here is I'm taking the flame away and moving it towards it. What I'm doing here is I'm relieving the heat, the continuous heat that's on the item, and judging when that's going to be hot enough. So I'm continuously bringing it closer and moving it away to regulate the heat in a way. So you can't just bring a small flame and hold it on, because it will just melt. So just bring it there, take it away, and you'll see the reaction of the flux and the solder. And once it gets to a certain point, take it away and quickly inspect it. We have a very neat solder joint. Where the two parts meet up, and this is the other thing I should mention to you, that when you align them, make sure that the chain, the direction of the chain is the same. You don't want the ridge part over here and the flat part over here. Make sure that both parts match up. The solder was successful. Now I'm bringing in a pair of pliers, and I'm just forcing that little area where I've got any kind of kink whatsoever. So if I didn't get it absolutely perfect and it's slightly like that, I'm just forcing it, that very area where I soldered it, I'm forcing it straight. And once we've made sure that the line runs absolutely straight in both directions, I'm using a very light burnisher just to recompress the area which had the trauma where it bent. I'm recompressing it. If you move the chain now over your hand and you hold your thumb on top of it and you're pulling it, if you're feeling where you've done the job, if you can feel there's a little kink, then you know that it's not exactly how it should be. It might be repaired, but it's not the optimum position to be in. This chain, actually, you can't feel where we've done the repair. We already know that there was some sort of an issue that broke this chain, which meant it probably bent and it has some sort of a weakness on it right now. I mean, the size that it is, if I'm going to be polishing it, I'm going to be putting it on a block of wood on the disc itself. This is another one of those Goldsmith's workshop secrets that we share. If you use a block of wood and you hold the chain tight, again, control, you can very lightly run with a polishing mop on the desk itself, which is a far safer way to go about cleaning something like this. We're not going to put this on a big polishing machine because we are basically looking for trouble. I had seen some other kinks in there, and that's just going to be begging to open up if there's any kind of pull on it. We made sure the delicate chain is treated in a delicate fashion. It works for us. Guys, be very careful with regards to putting them together. They can be a nightmare, but they can also be fixed. This is a kind of like tricky little chain to repair. If you've got any input on repairing sensitive chains, doesn't have to be a snake chain. If you've got a specific method that we haven't discussed over here, please feel free to leave it in the comment section and share it with the community. Thank you very much for watching. This is one of the chains that came through the workshop this week, which happens to be a snake chain, and I hope that you got something from the video. If there's any suggestions, let us know in the comments. We will see you next week. Thank you for watching. Damia.
Goodbye, guys.
Cheers!
Bye!
Welkom terug by ons werkswinkel. My naam is Jaco, hierdie is my werkswinkel. Ek is 'n goudsmid en vandag doen ons herstelwerk basies op 'n klein kettingkie. In Engels word dit 'n snakechain genoem. In Afrikaans moontlik 'n slangketting. Bly ingeskakel tot op die einde vir vandag se voorbeeld van ons werk. Baie dankie.